what I knew that Milton did not give a fuck about this conversation. He ends it by saying, "Talk to you in the group chat." They don't even have a private chat. Like, they're not texting each other.
Right, they're not friends.
So when she's like a BB moment, which is like a beautiful black moment. Did we get any of those in this episode?
Black.
We have a chaotic vibe moment of the chaotic vibe moment. And you're watching Black by Reality.
Black by Baddies.
And those who love us. Hi, you're watching Black by Reality. I'm your host, Nicole Weaver, and we are back to recap Love is Blind, Season 5, Episodes 8 and 9. If you are new to Black by Reality, just know we love covering entertainment through a Black queer lens. We have covered Cruel Summer Season 2 and Just Like That, and The Queer Ultimatum before, and now we're back with Love is Blind. Check those out if you're interested. And once again, I am here with my co-host for this series, Quita. Hi.
Hey there.
Okay, so what's your first thoughts about these 2 episodes that dropped?
I don't know. A part of me thought that we would have the weddings in this 2-episode drop. I don't know where my brain was, but like at the end I was like, we have another one.
Yeah, we do.
It's starting to feel like, okay, I'm ready for this to be over. This is starting to be too much and no longer in a good, fun way.
Yeah, you probably thought we were going to be at the end of the road because, like, we usually get a reunion and they just haven't announced anything when it comes to the reunion. So 10 episodes, and then are we going to do another live one after we saw how well that went last time?
I pray we don't do that.
I know. Oh, all right. We might as well jump in. So jumping in, we pick up right where we left off. Uche is talking to Milton and he says, I didn't get into your head or say anything but during the pods, but Lydia was on the other side getting into Aaliyah's head. And, he said, I've only said good things about Lydia. But now I'm going to say she has been dishonest early in our relationship. Lydia goes on the defense hard. She literally pulls Milton away. She would have tackled Uche or something, I think, because she was just like not having it with Uche and his words, because he knows how to wield them. What did you think of her coming in?
Yeah, it was just like she came in hot and was like, no, we're not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, I was like, has she addressed anything that Uche's even said about her besides being like, I don't understand the algorithm, but like, other than that, I don't feel like she actually really addressed much of it.
Yeah, he accuses her of being dishonest. I think she just throws it back like, you are also dishonest.
Right.
And then her biggest defense, I think it's pretty obvious when you're piecing the things together, is that they were dating. Mm-hmm. She had a feeling that he was dating other people or seeing other people too. So she was doing her snooping. Mm-hmm. And she feels, I think, valid in doing that, which people who tend to snoop tend to feel like that's their right. And he's like, nah, this is shady boots and something that the next man should probably know. And plus, on top of that, there's other sketchy things going on. So.
Right. Yeah. It was just too much. And it was just like, I feel like Uche, in like telling all of this, he wants to make himself sound like the good guy and being like, I never talked bad about Lydia to
Mhm.
Milton or Aaliyah. Like, I
Mhm.
only had nice things to say.
Mhm.
And my thing is, like, it makes you seem shadier to really, like, am I saying he should have, like, came out the gate being like, oh, Lydia is sketchy, like, you shouldn't trust her?
Mhm.
No, but I think he went out of his way to be like, she's such an amazing person. I want nothing but the best for her. And I'm like, you didn't have to say all that, because now you seem like you're conflicting yourself on the
Mhm.
back end to come back and be like, actually. And even when he's talking to Milton, he's like, she was a little bit dishonest to me. And then he later says, she flat out boldly lied to my face. And I'm like, was she a
Mhm.
little dishonest or does she boldly lie to you? And it's like he
Mm.
does this, like either something is not that big of a deal at all, but also
Mhm.
it's like a major deal at the same time.
Truly.
And it's like,
Truly.
what's the truth?
What is the truth? And also, while Lydia's pulling Milton away, he says, "Don't let her control you."
Right. He's like, you're gonna let her get in between you and your
And
friends. I'm like,
we all met at the same time.
literally. And I'm like, who said y'all were friends? Who said y'all
Yeah.
were friends?
Milton does not seem like he likes that man.
He doesn't. So I'm just like thoroughly confused why Uche keeps feeling the need to say, I'm your friend. We're friends. It's like, y'all are not
Nah.
friends. You met
You
on
are
this
not friends.
show.
He didn't want to talk about his relationship with you when you were trying to like dig in on the pods.
Literally.
You guys are not friends.
They're not.
And that's okay. So Milton does get back to Uche and he decides to start making an analogy that this is like calculus, and like everyone's on their own planes and like it's fine because we're on different paths. And Uche, I think, is like he's like, yeah, that's great logic. You're a smart man, but just know, like he's still trying to plant seeds of doubt,
Mm-hmm.
but still agreeing with everything Milton
Mm-hmm.
says, hoping it gets to him. But Milton's like, I am dead set on what I'm gonna do. You're
Right.
not gonna like play with my perspective.
Right.
And that's it. So yeah, he says, don't let Lydia come between them. And what I knew that Milton did not give a fuck about this conversation, he ends it by saying, talk to you in the group chat. They don't even have a private chat. Like they're not texting each other.
Right. They're not friends. And also, again, I do not respect Uche because he's like, I'm not trying to change what you're going to do with Lydia, but I'm just trying to let you know. And it's like, no, Uche,
I
you were
wish you
literally,
all the happiness.
it's like, no, you don't. Like, you were literally telling him these things about Lydia in hopes that he will end his relationship with Lydia. Like,
Yeah.
stop lying.
Yeah. And honestly, Milton probably should.
I mean,
That's
he
my perspective.
absolutely should. He
He
should.
should not stick with this just to prove a point. But like that's the real tough thing. Even just in real life, when you have a friend that like you're not feeling their partner and you see the red flags,
Right.
you can't push at all because that only makes them stick together even more.
More because they're trying to prove a point of like,
Mm-hmm.
no, this is going to work. We don't care what you have to say. This is going to work. And it's like,
Yeah.
but should it work? Why are we fighting so hard for it to work? Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Oof. Okay, so we thought we were done with Chris and Izzy, but we weren't.
oh my God.
I know. They're talking, and Chris um, reveals that Johnny accused Izzy of saying that she was a bad person, which I said in the last recap. He did not say that. And so Izzy even says, I didn't say that. So that's a red flag right there. So Izzy says, this woman told me she loved me 4 times in the pods. This was brand new information to Chris. Do you think Chris should care that she said I love you to him?
I don't. I don't think so, in my opinion, because I'm like, she was honest with Chris that she was choosing Izzy,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm like, odds are she was feeling like she was in love with him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think, because also what would be I understand.
They were about to get engaged.
Literally. So it's like, I would assume that she's in love with him. I think
Yeah.
him finding out from Izzy is like maybe like a
Sucks.
little, but also at the same time, when would be the right time to tell your new boo that you chose after you were dumped by your first choice that you were in love with your first choice?
Yeah, because we can definitely assume she wasn't telling Chris that she loved him.
No.
So, all right, Stacy comes. She thought she was gonna, I don't know why she thought it was gonna be a cute little conversation with Chris. Maybe because she was like, I know Izzy isn't beefing with him. But the minute she sat down, she was like, Izzy is still on this. And then Johnny comes over and Stacy's not feeling Johnny. So now it's a lot. Stacy calls Johnny full of shit. And then Johnny accused her of being deceitful for not saying she was interested in Izzy during the pods.
I'm just like, I don't think it's deceitful because no one's obligated to share who their number one is, who they're with. Like, it's not required, but a lot of people do, right?
No.
I think,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I think Stacy's very strategic, and she saw all these women wanting Izzy, so she's like, I'm gonna play the cool long game, or I'm gonna observe them because they're running their mouths, and then I'm gonna just wait till they fall off, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I don't think anyone's required to tell anyone anything. And it's obvious that like I don't think all of the women got along. They all had like their closest friends. So it's like, yeah, Johnny, you weren't. I think Johnny's just very embarrassed. And I think that's the thing that is really getting to her is like, oh, this girl saw me talking all this about Izzy. I got dumped. Now Stacy decided to rub a little bit salt into that wound. She was like, I felt empathy knowing you were gonna be dumped. Like, now Stacy, that's what that girl, that's her biggest, like, what she's angry about is like, you did know, you didn't give any warning, so she was like blindsided. But honestly, she shouldn't have told her. It's not that's Izzy's business to handle. But it's like, ooh, she put salt in that of being like, I felt bad for you, but now I don't, because you were talking shit after.
Right. And I think that's ultimately what I wanted from Stacy, because it feels like Stacy's like entered this like mean girl type of personality. Because even when like Uche was talking to the group and then Stacy or Johnny makes a face, and I'm like, Stacy, you're coming at Johnny right now, but all of the viewers, everyone observing this situation is all feeling the same way of like, what? Like,
yeah.
Like, Johnny's making the face that all of us felt like, so I mean, it just felt like she had something on her heart that she wanted to get off, but at no point did she actually address Johnny and say like, I think you're sketchy because you like once the moment you found out that Izzy wanted me, then you had all these bad things to say about me and you had bad things to say about Izzy, right? It's like at no point are they actually addressing the real beef with Johnny. They're just like, they just keep calling her sketchy. I'm like,
I think thinking about that, of how you put it that way, I think Milton and Stacy are very similar. They don't like letting other people think that they got under their skin. So Stacy would never go out of her way to say something to Johnny, but still Johnny really does bother her. So there's a moment of like, bitch, why are you making that face? It's just like anyone. If you don't like someone, it's like you're doing the fucking most right now. And you're not even a main cast member. I feel like that was Stacy's thinking of like, bitch, pipe down somewhere. You're not, you didn't get the man. You're doing the most to stick around. Like, chill the hell out. Which is interesting. I think, and also Johnny was the only one who was like hearing Uche's side. Like all of the women were going to bat for Lydia.
And I'm like,
and Johnny's like, he might have a point.
I'm like, because I think ultimately, after all of that, what I kept holding on to was like Aaliyah gets lost in all of this. In the hyper focus
Yes.
on the Uche versus Lydia beef, Aaliyah gets lost in
Why
that.
is no one defending Aaliyah for how deceitful these two freaking people were? Why
Right.
is it because Lydia like won and she gets to be one of the main cast members because she's engaged, so we have to like protect her? And like this is a common thing in reality shows. Like Love Island really bothers me because it turns into gender wars in these hetero
Mhm.
shows. And
Mhm.
like I do root for like the women the most, absolutely, but sometimes when it's like a woman is kind of wrong, it really bothers me how like all of the women gang up
Right.
blindly because they're just very uncomfortable with a man like
Right.
throwing shots. And like Uche was throwing shots when Miriam piped up. He said, "Do you live in Saudi Arabia? Do you live in Houston? What is the truth?" And Miriam's like, "I got a job." That wasn't what he said.
That's not what he said.
What is the truth? Why are you saying one thing and then the next second another thing?
Right. Because it's like, I'm like, as much as I can't stand Uche, I think he's a liar and manipulative and has
He's
narcissistic
sassy.
tendencies. He's telling the truth.
He's
Because it's like,
telling the
I'm
truth.
like, did he tell any lies? Do we know where she lives? Do
No,
we
he
know what her
don't.
skincare company is? Like, what?
Now, to be fair, Miriam did go on social media and
Okay.
tried to clarify what was looking like. And like part of me was like, okay, was it edited really bad? But just the fact that he brought it up and was like, no, it was really that conflicting in the
Right.
pods is like, oh, okay. Okay.
Right.
He said, stay
Right.
out of my business.
Right.
Stay out of
Right.
mine.
Yeah, I think, yeah, that whole situation where it's like all the women are like, no, you're not going to come after Lydia. I'm just like, but, and they were like, that's not how it happened on our side. And I'm like, but you can look at it critically and be like, some of the things that Lydia was saying to Aaliyah sounded off,
It
and
was very off.
it was
They
off. It was
saying
off.
they were like, oh, they want to give Lydia kudos for like, oh, she was there for Aaliyah when you were messing up and talking about you guys being together. Okay, but then she did all of that knowing she still was holding a secret, and like you wouldn't feel really weird about that later.
Right.
You wouldn't feel really weird that this freaking woman is like, we're the same woman.
Right.
Like let's have some critical thinking. They don't know that, and that's
Right.
what's still like they're blindly like backing Lydia up, but
Right. It's
it doesn't look good.
shady. The whole
It's
situation was
shady.
shady. It's like Uche can be wrong and we can not like him, but
Mm-hmm.
also Lydia is not absolved of
Mm-hmm.
her part in this as well. Because it's like also Lydia could have a vested interest in comforting Aaliyah because she wanted her to not continue to date Uche. You know, because I'm like, she was, when you listen
Mm-hmm.
to it, she's trying to convince her that she's too good for Uche. She's better than him. And, you know,
Yeah,
like
that's
what she
true.
was saying was like,
She
actually,
was like, he
like,
can't judge you, and da da da. It's not exactly like, oh, but you guys are so perfect for each other.
right,
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
right. You
But
know, so I'm like,
I think then the women are coming at it of like you don't treat women great. So
right.
it doesn't like it doesn't do anything for him that he does go after Miriam. But
Literally. It's just like,
yeah.
because he didn't have to go in on her like that. Because again, it speaks to how he speaks to women in a really
Yeah.
disrespectful way. You
Mhm.
know, like I get it. These 4 or 5 women are coming at your neck right now, but like
Mhm.
also you don't have to like speak to them in that way.
Mhm. True. So Milton at the end, he's hyping up Lydia privately. He's like, you're a mature woman. You got so many things going for you. He says, don't get emotional over Uche, and they leave for dinner. So that's the end of that whole debacle. So we can just get into what our last two couples are doing.
Gosh.
Yo, did you see where Izzy and Stacy were gonna go after this outing?
No.
Yeah. This was very interesting. So they get home. Izzy still wants to vent about this whole situation with Johnny. And then you can tell Stacy is really over it. She first of all says she doesn't want to talk about Johnny. He keeps going. And so then she's like, why do you care to help Chris? And he claims that they're friends and stuff, which is like, again, like, you guys aren't friends. And she was like, do you understand that it kind of bothers me that you're actually putting a lot of effort and emotion into someone who you were with? And he was like, oh, it wasn't a relationship. Like, Johnny's a pod chick. And Stacey's like, I'm a pod chick? And he's like, you're my fiance. So what do you think about pod chick versus fiance on Love is Blind?
It pissed me off the way that Izzy was devaluing and like trying to like wipe away his relationship with Johnny, because he started it when they were at the party when he's like going on and on about how she said I love you 4 times. She asked him to be her boyfriend and he said no. And it's like, but also she was your number one, because you said I'm gonna go see my number one, and then who walked in the pot? Johnny did. So don't act like you weren't all about her, right? Like, and then I was proud of Stacy for in that moment being like, I'm a pod chick too, right? Because she was over me for a long time. And it's like, don't do this now because you don't like her anymore. And so you're trying to act like y'all never had a connection. Two things could be true. You can think she's sketchy. You could be angry at her for what she said, but also you also cared about her deeply. You were connecting with her, and you were telling her things that you did not tell Stacy. So don't do that. You sure did. So don't do that.
So then the conversation goes to like, Stacy, once again, you should be about me. And by the way, you're not doing all the things you said you would do when we were in the pods. She's like, where's my meal? Where's my dinner? My plate, my plate that I had to buy that was not paper. It's empty. It's empty. Right. And I would like that. And you could tell Izzy, first of all, you could tell Izzy's drunk.
As a skunk. So drunk.
He's gone. And I think when she starts talking about what do you do for me, he looked hurt. He tried to twist it around. He's like, well, what do you do? What do I do for you? You should answer. And she's like, no, you should be able to answer.
I'm asking you.
I'm asking you
the question.
And it's very interesting that his answer is all about emotions. He's like, I'm very patient, very kind. I'm very patient, very kind. And it's like, but you didn't say you were just going to be patient and kind in the pods.
That's not the expectation that you set for the relationship when y'all got back to the real world.
Yeah. So in the end, Izzy leaves and he goes to cry. Stacy seems pretty chill, and then she finds him on the floor in the closet. She's like, what is going on? And he basically is saying, he feels like everything he does isn't good enough for her. And we can take a lot from that feeling of not feeling good enough.
And I mean, I know he's drunk, but I'm like, I feel like some of this, it's like the class situation, I think, is like really starting to get to him.
Yeah.
Because it's like what she said to him was like, essentially, like, you told me you were going to cook for me, you were going to rub my feet, you were going to do all these things, and you haven't done that. And that's not about being good enough. It's about actually holding you accountable for what you said. And then he immediately starts talking about how he's not good enough for her and how she's not appreciating anything that he's doing. I was like, I think I would just like felt in that moment, I was just like, you should just address the elephant in the room of how much money she has. Makes you feel uncomfortable because of how little money you have, right? And like feeling like you potentially can't measure up to her expectations of a husband.
I definitely think that's part of it, but I think it's very interesting that Stacy's not even talking about that in this conversation. Right. She's literally talking about things you could do as a partner that isn't really tied to finances. So I'm also kind of side-eyeing Izzy of like, yeah, why aren't you doing like those things? He's doing the flowers every week, and it's interesting because it's not even unique to her. He keeps stressing that he just always does that. So it's like, and you know Stacy likes to be special. You know that.
Right.
So, all right, give her something new. Give her something new. So later we see Stacy. She's doing her Pilates, instructing people. Izzy comes after, I guess, her shift. And, you know, how did you feel about this conversation? Because it was wild to me. It was wild to me.
Yeah. I mean, Izzy and Stacy are just so freaking interesting to me because it's like clearly Stacy is someone who is not very vulnerable or easily. By the end of it, it felt like they were just like trying to like gloss over things to get back to the good feelings, right? And then she's like, the way you showed up in this conversation for the last 10 to 15 minutes is why I love and choose you.
Yeah.
I'm like, are we going to actually address the fact that like he feels like he's not good enough for you? You hate Johnny's guts because she was his number one for a while. Like, can we talk about the real things going on between y'all?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I think, and like I felt like Izzy kind of twisted things in his favor because he's talking about like, and it could be editing, but the first thing we see is he talking about how he doesn't feel appreciated. It's like, how did we get here when she's the one who was talking about you not doing things for her? So now all of a sudden he feels unappreciated. Stacy says that she feels like she does things for him and it's not reciprocated. So they're basically both feeling unappreciated. And, you know, yeah, like you said, she was like, oh, you're so calming, da da da. And then he gives her gifts. So he gives her a plunger. I don't know. I don't. It's had a joke. This is a shitty situation, da da da. She was like, oh, I love it. And then a coupon for a dinner. First of all, no, no, there's no coupons going on around here. You're gonna do this regularly, right?
Because that was the agreement that not even agreement, that was the expectation that he set, he said he would be the one to cook, because not only did he say it in the pods, he said it when they were at his place too. Like he kept reiterating how he cooks. So I'm like, ain't no coupon situation. Like, you said you were gonna do this, are you gonna do it, yes or no?
Yeah. But she loved it. And yo, Stacy loves the baby voice. She just turns into a sexy little baby. And she's just like, oh my God, I love it.
Oh my gosh. I'm noticing she likes to do voices often because she went into like the Southern Belle voice with Johnny too at the end. I was like, okay. Like,
yeah.
I'm noticing a trend here.
Yeah. Totally. But that's also kind of how you can just tell a woman is like feeling a man is like
right.
So it's like, okay, she's still really feeling Izzy.
She is.
And it's making me uncomfortable.
Right. Oh.
Over at Lydia and Milton, they're talking in bed. Milton's like, oh, I'm less emotional than you. Lydia seems over the conversation of her being emotional. And she's like, yeah, but you need to be validating my emotions as a partner after that whole Uche situation. So Milton asks her to handle things like him, where he doesn't show other people's emotions. So what do you think of this advice Milton gives?
I feel so many things about this situation. It's like I hear where he's coming from, but he knew who Lydia was when he was in the pods with her. Or like she was clear that she was emotional. She's telling him that Uche is her ex and like all of this, and she's way more emotional than he is in the situation. Like, he was clear that she is a very emotional person. However, on the flip side, Lydia does not want to hear any type of feedback on the
No.
way her emotional behavior can further escalate or not
Mm,
help a situation. I'm like, I don't know if it's like necessarily reasonable for him to be like handle situations like me, but
mm-hmm.
he is valid in saying that, like, can you be a little more grounded in the way that you handle
Mm-hmm.
these situations? And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, I did leave. I left twice. And it's
He's
like,
like, you leave once.
you don't
You
leave
leave once.
twice. Like, if you leave, you left. Like, ma'am, what? Like,
Truly, truly. I think to be fair with Milton, he did see that she was more emotional in the pods, but in the pods it's just you two. And I don't think they had much
mm,
conflict. So this is the
mm,
first time he gets to see how she handles conflict.
right.
So that's just a very interesting
Telling.
thing. So we're
Yeah.
gonna put a pin on that. And come back to it later. So Lydia meets Milton's family. Yo. And
Ooh.
Lydia makes a comment about Milton sitting on the counter. The mom's like, yeah, he's tall. So and I think Lydia was like, oh, I'm not gonna get back up on like
No.
ragging on this man. No.
Mm-mm.
Instead, the mom asks for her full name, and the sister says, just letting you know, she's gonna do a full-on background check. And honestly, good.
Right.
That's what a mama should do. Okay, so Milton Milton during this scene, the editors, I know the people, the cameramen, they were filming and they were like, this is gold. Because while Milton's family is talking about what do you, a 30-something, want with a 25 or 24-year-old, this man is sitting there just going ham on a cork with his freaking teeth. And you see this black ass family. They're bougie looking. They look like they have some money. They have a wine opener.
They have multiple wine openers. You know they have multiple wine openers.
This man is just that young that he was like, I can do this with my teeth, and then he can't. And he has to sit that shit down on the counter. And I know the cameraman was like, ooh, let's zoom in on that.
This is good.
I was like, this is hilarious. Milton.
Oh my God.
Milton.
Milton. Like, it's like you didn't think to ask anybody, like, oh, mom, where's the wine opener? Or dad, he's like, no, I'm gonna just open it with my teeth. I know I can open it with my teeth.
Just young and like confident.
Too confident.
Too confident. So meanwhile, Lydia's answering and she was just like, oh, he's just so much more like open about what he needs and wants more than the men my age. Interesting answer. And they ask what she doesn't like about him. And the leaving things around the house, basically the whole being a mess is the situation. The mom asked if it was a deal breaker, which the sister was like, dang, we're going to deal breakers immediately. This gave me Milton listing off all the things to try and get out of the proposal and be like, is that a deal breaker? Oh no. And she's like, yes, I'll do it.
Right. Lydia said, I want a man.
She said, I want a man, and I'm leaving with one.
Period. That's it.
So no, it's not. And the sister said, well, the mom's like, oh yeah, he's young, he'll change. The sister said, no, he won't. No, he won't. The hell are you talking? I have been raised next to this man. He ain't gonna change. He was probably leaving bowls and shit in his room growing up. So she was like, nah. Family asked if Milton, since when? Their family's like, since when, Milton, that you were interested in getting married? This is brand new information to us.
I really empathize with Milton, just like immediately when he walked in and like the mom was like, oh, like do you call him James or do you call him Milton?
Mm-hmm.
And Lydia was like, I call him Milton because that's how he introduced himself. And the mom was like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, in school, his classmates would refer to him as Milton. And I'm like, because he's introducing himself as Milton, because it sounds like he goes by Milton. And as a
Mm-hmm.
family unit, you're choosing to disregard who he identifies as to put forth your own interpretation of who he is or who he should be. And he should
Mm-hmm.
be the junior version of his dad, right? And like, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
of course, Milton doesn't talk to you about anything because y'all think y'all know what's best for him and you will talk over him and you'll bulldoze him like you're doing in this very instance. Like he don't talk to y'all about anything that he don't have to, I'm assuming. And like, yeah, I'm just like, oh, I completely see where Milton's coming from and why he chose someone like Lydia, who's like emotional and expressive and compassionate and loving. And it's like, because his family, I'm like, they're like in the ways that we could understand how Stacy is because of her
Mm-hmm.
class background, I immediately saw Milton and was like, oh yeah, it's a very similar thing because while they're Black, they clearly are of a certain class, right? And like what
Mm-hmm.
it takes to maintain that and
Mm-hmm.
survive in those type of cultures around class.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, you came in with like guns blazing. I was like,
I know. I was like, it made me so upset. I was like, why do you keep calling him James if this man has been going by Milton since he was a child?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. It is a lot. I think you do see what Milton is trying to differentiate, and yet some ways he's exactly like his family.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. Now, Lydia does have a private conversation with the sister and mama, and she answers why she wants to marry him. I also thought that sounds nice because she got some flowery language sprinkled in there, and the mom immediately was like, well, you have a great scripted answer.
Mm-hmm.
Gagged her.
Period.
Gagged. Whoa. But it's true. It's weird because it's like it's so emotional and like not practical. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like I also just don't blame them. The sister flat out called it phony, yo.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that sucks.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because I'm like, also, I think what's wild to me is like the family doesn't even know about all of this like Uche drama that happened in
Yeah.
the pods, which I feel like would only further make them feel like it was like a fake and phony situation.
I wonder what the reaction is watching.
Literally seeing Lydia be like, no, I'm not entertaining Milton, going after Izzy. And then when Izzy dumped her, then she was willing to
Mm-hmm.
entertain Milton.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting. In the meantime, for both couples, we see them get their marriage license for the first time because they were like, we need to fill up space.
Right. It's like, why are we at the courthouse right now getting the marriage license?
No one thinks that's exciting. So next, it is time to shop. Okay. Izzy's there. Izzy and his mom are there. And then, Izzy's mom's like, oh, Stacy is tender and sweet. Basically the same words that Izzy used to describe her.
Mm-hmm.
Stacy's mom and sisters are at the fitting and they love Izzy, which I'm actually very surprised how on board Stacy's family is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I am too. But I'm curious what kind of guys Stacy has dated in the past. And
Mm-hmm.
if she normally dates like assholes with money, I can definitely see why her mom and sisters would be like, we love Izzy because he's so like sweet and caring and not, I mean, he's an
Mm-hmm.
asshole in his own way, but like the way he has portrayed himself.
Yeah. And like she really stresses that Love is Blind is perfect for Stacy because she would have mostly ruled out men for their looks, which I think is interesting. So yeah, she was like, this is the way it had to go. Which most families are like, this is weird. No, thank you. We see that Stacy got a denim jacket bedazzled with Miss Abada. So she feeling it. She cute. And she doesn't want a basic dress, which honestly we knew. You didn't have
Right.
to say it. You didn't have to
You
say
have
it.
a blinged out Mrs. Zapata on your jean jacket right now. We know you don't want a boring dress, Stacy.
And, you know, she said, maybe I'll take a little thing from here, a little thing from here, from this dress, and, you know, just put it together. You want a custom dress. That's a
Right.
custom dress,
That's
Stacy.
what a custom dress is.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like, I don't believe Stacy actually buys a dress from this place that like all of the other contestants would take for free.
Mhm.
But what do you think?
If she does take it, I'm sure she would have it altered afterwards. But I wouldn't be surprised if she had her own dress custom
Yeah.
made. But it also, maybe she does go along with it because of the timeline.
Right, it's so quick.
Because it's like, it can take wedding dresses like months to be produced and like,
This
but
is
she's
true.
pretty small.
Exactly.
Like, so
She's
she could be
probably a sample size.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're going to be surprised with something. But, you know, in the end, she basically picks out an A-line dress with a lot of tulle. And they put like a belt on it, little pearls, and you know, she loves it.
Right.
I think I don't know if she pulls out the baby voice. I love it.
Oh, gosh. Oh, Stacy.
I mean, I'm throwing stones at a glass house. I'm sure
Right, because I'm like,
if you film me with Jordan, I'm sure I'm just like
yeah, and I'd be kind of quiet because I'd be definitely using the baby voice when I'm in love. So, like, don't pull up no compilation videos of
nah. Izzy, he was talking to his mom, and like it was very funny because it wasn't even like his mom anymore. I think we saw someone else's mama as Izzy was talking, but she was sitting there like, I'm getting the tea. Because, yeah, no, it wasn't Milton. It had to be someone else.
Milton was talking with Izzy's mom at one point. It was like Milton and his friends and Izzy's mom sitting there. And I was just like,
yes,
wow,
Izzy's mom was getting the tea. She seemed like just one of the boys sitting down kikiing. So I thought that was hilarious because that would be me. Izzy's like, I'm confident in what I have with Stacy because once again, they're good at communicating and resolving their issues. He loves saying that. He loves it. And it's like, are they resolved though?
Are they resolving them, or are they just like not angry with each other?
Yeah, I think that's Izzy's goal. Like he says it later, which we'll get to. Like that's literally his goal. All right. So for Lydia, you know, she brought her mom, brother, and friends. We see Renee, by the way. She in the background. I don't know if you guys know this, but Renee from the pods, she also got engaged to Carter and apparently went through the whole entire process and it was just cut out. And you see Renee sitting there with like the other brides and she's also wearing white. The first time around, I really thought she was just like, oh, they brought the pod.
I was like, wow. And then it lets you know the power of like editing and production, right? Because it's like they could like edit things in a way where you could really think something completely, which is like the point of the show, but it's like, no, there was actually a third couple that we literally do not know was there. Like went to Mexico. Like Renee and Carter were at that party as another engaged couple, not just Pod Squad. You know? I'm like, that is wild.
Very wild. And like on top of that, Uche has come out and said that his scene with Aaliyah in the restaurant was edited completely wrong and that they actually left agreeing to keep seeing each other. So if you want any information on those two things, I will put the links to my articles about them down below. We see so Milton says he loves Lydia. He calls her a brat and he loves it. And I'm like, little kinky thing going on.
Right.
He's like, sometimes I like that she gives me shit. And it's like, okay. It's a little different when it's outside the bedroom, but okay.
Right.
But he also says he feels like he has to watch his words around her because her reactions. And he admits that he's, a little bit nervous and scared. He's like, usually I wouldn't say anything like that, but it's like one-on-one with the camera. And it seems like he's nervous that she's not going to say I do. So it looks like Milton's really thinking about moving forward with this at this point. Does that shock you?
It didn't shock me because it felt like, especially after his conversation with Uche, that is followed by his conversation with his family.
Mm-hmm.
It's just starting to feel like, because there's so much external condescension, or like people are like so anti it, that he's going to be like, no, Lydia's the one. I love her. We're going to do this. I'm like, but are you critically thinking about this relationship?
Yeah, he thinks he's very analytical and non-emotional, but like humans are victim to that all the time. That's actually something Chris Harrison said when it came to like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. He was like, yeah, we notice every time there's drama with like one suitor at the end over the other, they end up picking that one, which could have come out of the blue, but it's only because, that's the thing I can't have. Like, Ari Lyondike and like Becca, when he picked Becca because her ex-boyfriend showed up, is like the biggest example of that. And he definitely said, oh, never mind, and went with his runner-up, and they're married and have kids now. So
wow.
Yeah, they're still together. So it's a factor. It's absolutely a factor. She is talking about how she's in love and she loves trying on dresses. This is literally the happiest I've seen Lydia the whole entire season.
And it's like, of course, because she's one step closer to the thing that she wants, and it's starting to feel real to her.
Yeah, and I think some women, they've really visualized the wedding day. The dress is a big part of that, but it's always a self-check-in when you're going through the motions. It's like, do you want the marriage or do you want the wedding? Like, gotta be very honest with yourself about that. So her mother, she loves seeing her as a bride. They're like basically twinsies, I think, on the emotional level about this. She gets a veil and a crown, and Lydia's done. She is crying. She is boo-hooing in the club.
I'm just like, I'm happy for you, sis, but also, can we be real about this whole relationship and what's going on? Because I'm like, I'm still upset that she keeps calling him a kid, and in some ways he's more mature than she is.
Ooh. I mean,
so like,
true.
Let's be real.
True. She does say she didn't know how bad she wanted this. You didn't know? Girl, I think we can all see how bad you wanted this. That was the wildest thing she said the whole entire time. It's like Aaliyah, oh my God, you know that I used to be with Uche, and then I didn't know how bad I wanted marriage. Like, what?
Right.
So wild. She's so wild for that. All right, so the next thing for both people, we see Izzy and Stacy get a last date. They fly together on this little plane, and Izzy's like, yeah, she loves jets. So I was like, is this considered a jet? I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Right. And I'm just like,
she doesn't like just flying. This is not the same.
This is not I'm like, you're taking her to look at like bomber jets. Like, this is not
like Netflix is never gonna pay for the jet that she actually likes.
Literally. We're like, we can take you to the Air Force Base. That's about as good as we can.
Exactly. So it says, Izzy, you're a calm in the storm. They're having dinner. And Izzy said he didn't think he would fall in love again. A reminder, Izzy was engaged before. So might have been, I don't know how long before, but probably alluding to that. And then they talk about the family situation. So apparently Izzy just has his mom who's going to support him at the wedding. So it's like, oh, he really wants basically Stacy's family because of that. And Stacy's like, yeah, you talk to my family more than I do.
Yeah, he really wants that sense of family and like noting, like he talks about the or I don't know if he uses the word trauma, but like his childhood and like his stepdad not really being around and finding out that that wasn't even his dad, and then them divorcing. Which also I was kind of like, when his mama is just like, oh, like marriage is serious, like, ma'am, are you divorced?
I
So
mean,
death do us part? Like, are we
marriage
divorced?
is serious and divorce happens. I am pro-divorce.
I'm
If
also
you
pro-divorce. I'm also pro-divorce, yikes. But I was like, this till death do us part. And I'm like, ma'am, you're divorced. Get serious
yeah,
with yourself right
yeah.
now.
But I think that's still like with the wisdom of like, yeah, like marriage is big shit, and that includes like once you divorce, it can be messy and complicated. They do their practice their first dance, I guess. I think she said that we have 2 days to go before the wedding, so this was already cutting it close. So after that, yo, I was like, why is it so quiet? Like,
Yeah, I was like,
tap on the mic, like, what's happening?
I was like, wait a second. Did something happen? Like, did I miss something? Like, what's going on?
They were like, oh, we're gonna hit them with the awkward silence. And they're both packing. And then, all of a
Can
sudden
we
she's
call what Izzy was doing packing though? Did you see this man was just like throwing everything in his bag, no folding?
No. I didn't notice, but that's so funny. So, she says, I feel like I can't trust you. And it's like, oh, what happened? Where did we were just dancing. What happened? So she says that, he didn't talk about his bad credit. Izzy claimed, oh, I wasn't trying to hide it. I just really wanted to sit down and get to the like nitty gritty. And it's like, then why did you not like, hey, we need to sit down and have this conversation? Also, apparently you told Johnny about this in the pods. So why does Johnny, it could be a pod conversation there, but it's not a pod conversation for Stacy? He was just like, oh, I knew the conversation would be long. Like, oh Lord, I don't want a long conversation about credit. That is a jump scare. A jump scare. She accuses him of rambling to beat around the bush. Yo, Stacy sometimes just gives no fucks. She's just like, I see
None.
through you.
He was definitely rambling to beat around the bush, because I feel like he did not want to own up to the fact that he had not talked to her at all about that, and had multiple opportunities. Because even if in the moments where it came up he didn't feel like it was the right situation, he could have indicated to her, like, actually we do need to set a time aside to like have a serious conversation, like a longer conversation about this. But he literally didn't, omit all of it up until right before they were about to potentially get married. And it's like, why would you wait all this time to say that?
And like, if we want to give the benefit of the doubt, maybe it didn't happen right before. But then again, they're packing.
They're packing. They're
So
packing.
it's like it probably did happen right before. And like Stacey brings up, there were opportunities. Apparently, there was something that happened at a gas station. She was like, "Why don't you have a credit card?" And like, she was like, "There were opportunities," and he claimed it didn't even come to mind. It came to mind. It came to mind. Like,
It
that's why I'm
came
like,
to mind, because it came to mind when they were at her house, because you could see by the way his jaw was clenching. It was sitting right at the top of his head right there, and he did not want to address it. It's like,
yeah.
don't lie, bro. And it's like, if it came to top of mind with Johnny, I know that there had to be times where you thought about, like, is this something you should discuss with Stacy? And he chose not to. And it's like, I'm like, if he wanted to even just own it and be like, I didn't because I was afraid I was going to lose you, he could have said that. But the fact that he was trying to act like he never thought about talking about that just feels like a lie.
It does. And yeah, she says it was a lie. He claims he's trying to dance around it being a lie. But in the end, again, I feel like Izzy twists things because all of a sudden he's talking about, well, I'm scared to say things because it'll upset you. And it's like, now you're making it about how I'm reacting to the bullshit you actually did to me. And he wants to know that she'll have his back. And it's like, and Stacy falls for it. She's just like, it's gonna be okay. And it's like, what? Why are you reassuring him? He needs to reassure you because it looks like he was just trying to trap your ass.
It does. And it's like he needs to reassure you that in the future he will come to you about these things. Like, you're not like, yes, there is some like mutual reassurance that she'll be more open to hearing things. But also, he needs to reassure her that he won't keep hiding things from her. Because it's like, this time it's about the debt. We get married. What else could I find out later on that you've been hiding from me?
Yeah, what else? So I felt like that was, again, him reversing things like he did earlier. Like, well, I feel unappreciated when it was her bringing up a problem. Milton meets with his sister. And, you know, it's very interesting because he says that Lydia felt like the family meeting was intense. So I think she doesn't think it went well, which is interesting. And then the sister is like, oh, people think your relationship is fake. That's after she said it was phony straight to his face on the first day. So, and, you know, she also feels like the family is not involved, which is not a great foundation for marriage. That's like the biggest thing is like trying to make everyone feel involved. So,
I mean, I think that his family doesn't realize how not involved in his life they are overall, and they should maybe sit with the fact of why Milton wouldn't want him involved in his life.
That's very true. Very true. And you know, Milton even tries to like open up a little bit of how he sees the family dynamic because he's like, you know, we don't really talk about things. Like Lydia's family is like very caring and open. She's like, we're caring, we're loving. It's like,
they're giving.
Okay.
She even has a smirk as she's saying it. So it's like you also recognize the family dynamic too.
Yeah, it's like, okay, girl. So yeah, Milton thinks she's like, oh, you're talking about this like marriage is a business arrangement, and he's like, yeah, it is, and it is like, let's have a balance between, yes, in modern day we're like romanticizing marriage and everything, but it started as a business agreement. It started as, I'll sell you my daughter for like this business arrangement. It's a business arrangement. You're signing a contract. If Stacy signs on the dotted line, she also gets hit by that credit. Like, so Milton's not dumb. Like, let's think about that. And at the end, Lydia asks if Lydia, oh no, Milton's sister asks, will Lydia hyphenate the name? And he says he doesn't believe in that. She's fucking Hispanic. What do you mean?
She already has 2 last names.
Ooh, that bothered me. Like, what do you mean you don't believe in that?
It's like, well, what does she believe?
Yeah.
Like, what does she want? This actually isn't solely about you, Milton.
Truly not. All right, let's get to the very end, yo. So Lydia and Milton, they go on their last date to a place full of minerals. Nice choice at producers. And they're talking about things. Milton says Lydia's a different person out of the pods, y'all. Which is, I mean, you only knew her in the pods for a week, so.
Right.
And he mentioned she wakes up upset. And this makes me think of like Cat Williams, his one stand-up of like, how you gang banging off of breakfast. So, and Lydia's like, well, what do you do that makes me wake up that way? And it's like, the mess it's the mess. I think also part of the work schedules, it's like, yeah, that's probably the one time they're both at home.
Right.
So to talk about things. So they're having an argument over dishes, whether he did them, how long they sat. I hate everything about this. This is the worst thing about living with someone. I'm like, get me out of here. But then they talk about the real interesting stuff, and Milton does not agree with how Lydia handled the Uche situation. Basically, he's of the mind of, you never let them see you sweat. He says he doesn't judge Lydia, but that's just his perspective. And the reason, which I don't think they leaned into enough, the reason he cares to voice this is not to judge her, but he's saying, how will we raise our children? Because Lydia's like, I would not change a thing, da da da. But also the very big unsaid thing is that he's a Black man. It's not that Milton doesn't have emotions, which she said, and he was like, oh, so you feel like I don't have emotions. He doesn't have the privilege to go off on people. He's a 6'7" Black man. Yes, he's scrawny, but let's keep it real. And Lydia's just like, I'm gonna say what it is, no consequences. And I think Milton's seeing like, yeah, my family, my Black ass family, they probably don't show a lot of emotions, but that's also a survival instinct too. So there's in some ways that he's like, I feel like that is right. So what did you think of this?
I think this was another moment of Lydia not actually taking serious what someone is communicating to her, right? Like she's getting swept up in what they're saying is making her feel. But that piece that he raised, like, when we have kids, what are we going to teach them? Again, she doesn't address that. Like she just keeps getting upset.
It's about her.
It's all about her. And I'm like, what he's saying is valid. What will y'all teach your children? Because your children will be Black. So it's like, as they go out into the world, are you going to be teaching them that they could just pop off at anybody at any times? And that has real life consequences for Black children in the US, right? And so it, again, and I'm like, this over reliance of like, this is just who I am. And I'm like, that doesn't, this is who you have been, but it doesn't mean that's how you have to remain to be, especially if it's impacting how you're able to move through conflict in your relationships. Like, grow up, Lydia.
Yeah, there's a lack of accountability there. Just like, this is just the way it is. And that means, Milton, you have to make the decision. Now, he also talks about how she talks about Uche, I guess, in private, because he's like, you're calling him an asshole, a piece of shit, da da da. And she was like, well, first of all, I didn't say it to his face, which she didn't. I think she actually was like pretty calm in the very beginning of that confrontation. But she was obviously venting to him. So it's kind of like an Izzy and like Stacy situation of like, as a new person, you don't want to hear your partner just go off about the ex. And so when she's like, oh, and by the way, he is a piece of shit, he's like, thank you for saying that for the millionth time. Storms off. That, for some reason, that irked her. Because it's like, if he feels like it's the millionth time, Lydia, then what are we going to do here? Like, I don't.
Right. And Lydia did also call him a piece of shit when they were at the party, and she's saying she didn't say it to his face, but like she was saying it very loudly, and like the group was over here, and literally Uche and Milton were kind of behind them. So I'm just like, girl.
Yeah. Okay,
whatever.
That's fair. So yeah, I think, and to be fair, Lydia's like, I'm being accused of like being a stalker on like international television. Now, how far what she did, like, I think there's a lot of debate of like, isn't what she did like kind of normal, and other people being like, this is like a serious red flag. But you know, I think what's the big unsaid thing is also like, what's Lydia's being concerned about probably her reputation after this, and her character being gunned after. So it's like, yeah, for Milton, it's kind of easier for him to say like, just get over it, but also like, can we validate Milton's perspective on like How are we going to handle conflict with people in the future?
Yes, and she is very concerned about her reputation. And I noticed that at the party, when she came back to the girls, she said that he's sending me screenshots of people telling him that I was looking at his story.
Yeah. And the girls
And
were like, don't we all look at the men?
I was
No.
like, no, baby. They were saying she was looking at their stories, people she does not know. And she's like, well,
Yes.
we have mutual friends. And I'm like, well, your mutual friends wouldn't be concerned about you looking at their stories. These
No,
are
they
people
wouldn't.
you do not know and have never met. So be honest.
Yeah, be honest. She has a habit of twisting things. So, you know, in the end, he says, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings. She says, I'm sorry I don't abide by your expectations. And he's like, I don't place expectations on you. But the scene is so choppy. It just ends with them saying, like, I love you to each other. And I'm just like, this woman is unapologetic in the worst way.
Absolute worst way. And I'm like, oh, I see why her and Uche didn't work out.
It looked so cute.
Oh,
Last time too. Okay, guys. This is the future. I had to go to work right when we got into the Milton and Lydia dinner of it all. So that's why I'm looking like this. But to continue, first of all, do you want to say anything more about Milton and Lydia's last conversation?
I mean, both of the couples ended up getting into arguments like the right before the altar, which I think is like kind of normal because I feel like anxiety and tensions are high before the altar.
I also think the producers are just like, hey, on this last date, talk about what your concerns are.
Right.
So, like, I don't think Izzy and Stacy really had much negative things to say on their last date. But then we got the biggest awkward packing scene of it all.
Right. Where they had like one of their biggest points of conflict. So
that wasn't planned
at all.
And I feel like for Milton and Lydia, it was just like, yeah, let's revisit the whole Uche thing, even though it seems so past that. And she's just like, living with you is disgusting. Pick up your stuff.
Yeah. And I think, well, I guess I hear her, right? Like, you don't want to live with someone who is like leaving food containers in their bedroom and just leaving their stuff all around. But also some of the ways where she's like, I don't want to keep repeating myself to you. And I'm like, Lydia, y'all have literally been living together like what, 2 weeks? And you already have this like resentment.
Yeah.
I don't think that's fair.
I agree. So for me, it's like these two people make enough money. Like Milton apparently makes 6 figures literally just by a cleaner.
Right. Right. Just hire someone to support you with it.
This is literally one of the perks of having disposable income. You live in Houston. Houston's pricey, but it's not so pricey that you can't hire someone. So like
literally, especially given their work schedules where like there doesn't seem like there's like much of a shared window of time where they can spend a lot of time doing chores. So just hire someone. Like, this isn't worth the conflict.
It's not. And like, also this is men who watch this show, men who are watching this, like this happens every single season, and it usually starts in Mexico because the whole towels. Who was that couple we've seen before in Mexico that she kept being like, your towel, your towel, your towel?
It was Cole and Zainab, right? And then and I'm like, okay, Lydia, I get it. He's gross, but also nothing will ever top Cole's apartment and them getting there and there literally being things in the toilet that had been left the whole time. They had been gone.
Yeah.
So just like,
but that's also like the bar is in hell. Like
literally in hell.
we would never say that's good enough when it comes to like a femme or a woman. So it's like, I get it. But it truly is like, I know you guys have money. Like,
And it's all about how you were raised, and just it's a lot. But
because I'm sure his mom probably picked up after him, which is why his sister was like, he's not going to change.
Yeah.
You know?
It's always fallen on like the nearest woman, and now you're it,
Right.
Lydia. So think about that when you make your decision at the altar. But then she's thinking of like my dress, which, by the way, something I also thought of. I thought it was such a it seemed clear to me that a very important thing for Lydia was, of course, she should be able to dance in her dress, because we saw her popping a lock in. But then also her boobs. I think she wanted her boobs to be a big part, because she tried on 2 dresses, and that seemed to be like a big part of it.
I didn't even notice that, but that makes so much sense. Yeah, she was like, I need to be able to twerk in it. I was like, girl. Oh, but I do think something that's interesting is at the end of their conflict, they did the same thing that Izzy and Stacy do, where there's like little to no resolution, and then they just easily fall back into, I love you. Yes. It's going to be okay.
Yes.
I'm like, how is it going to be okay?
Yes. Well, these editors, right? They want you to not know, and be like, okay, it could be that they both say I do, because for Izzy and Stacy, she's obviously so physically attracted to him. She says she likes his like emotional part, and then we all get blindsided at the end of like, but Izzy wasn't honest about his finances.
Right.
And like, the honesty is one thing. Second thing also is his finances could easily affect her then.
Literally.
If they get married. So
right. I think yeah. And I'm like, also if she has a mentality of she doesn't want to help like financially boost her man, because I'm like, also in the ways that his financial things can pull her down, her financial things can actually help him, especially if it's a small minor thing.
True.
But because I'm like, she could easily just open up a credit card in his name, or like put him on a shared credit card account, give him little to no access to the card, and help boost his credit, or like put like limits on how much he could spend, right? But like, you know, she might feel wary about doing that given his track record.
Yeah, a lot of that is like, yeah, that would be one way to go. But then a very secure man would be willing to like do that, and it not turn into other, because it's like a power dynamic now. It's like, ooh, it's so tough. But right now, how are you feeling? Do you think Stacy and Izzy get married or not?
I said it last time. I said I think Stacy will say no based on finances, and based on that scene, I'm like, I still feel like she might say no based on finances, especially learning so close to the altar. Yeah, I think it might get to her.
I think that's so unforgivable. I can't believe he waited that long.
Yeah, especially when we as viewers know that he told Johnny. I'm like, even if Stacey said yes, she gonna be watching that and feeling very perturbed, because she liked to be special. I'm like, oh, he was pouring his guts out to Johnny in the pods.
And let's face it, I think him and Johnny bonded over, I think, hardships. I think that was a big part of that like relationship, because he's like, yeah, we both were engaged before, and then we don't know anything about Johnny's financial situation, but I'm assuming that he's like, oh, I can be vulnerable, and you're understanding of this. You're probably going to be understanding of like my finances too.
Right.
So, all right, for Milton and Lydia, I mean, Lydia really wants to get married. So that's on the side of they're probably going to. Milton seems he's very determined to like, or very sure of himself. Of going through this process when his like family's doubtful. So that's on their side. The main negative is like, I'm trying to think of even how to phrase it. The main negative is, I guess, how they express themselves. And then claiming for Lydia. Does she want to take on that?
Right. I mean, yeah, Lydia's saying yes no matter what happens.
That's how I felt.
No matter what.
This is resting on Milton.
Yeah. And I feel like the way we're viewing it, it seems like Milton is going to say a yes, but I feel like it would be like SK type level, because it's like he hasn't really given any indication that he would say no at any point. I mean, yeah, even when the argument started about how she handled the situation with Uche, he never flat out said, like, I don't know if I will marry you based on this. He's just like, I'm concerned about, what happens when we have children.
Yes.
So yeah, he literally hasn't, and it feels like he's also trying to prove a point. Like, he's like, I trust myself. I know what I'm doing. I don't care what anyone else has to say.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the show typically has a format every season. There's one couple that the sure thing, and like that was obviously our girl
Taylor and JP, or no?
No. I'm thinking of season 1, Cam and Lauren.
Oh, yeah.
Like, they have that couple usually every season now, the safe bet. The second one would be like, they're a hot mess. It's probably not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's I think they like a blindside couple.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you remember the first season, there was that white couple, which I could not.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't tell you a thing about them, honestly. But the most memorable moment was the wedding, because she said no.
No. Yeah. Yeah. I don't even remember their names, but I remember them. They were just like a cute, boring white people who seemed happy. Like, they were good. And then I thought, she's like, no. Because he said yes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was they both have said a lot of stuff since then of like what went on in that, and whether it was actually shocking or not, but it was painted as like, even he was blindsided, we were blindsided. And after that, it's like a couple probably that will get together, but now we're just down to 2. So it's like, what did they pick? What are we left with? Because I have a feeling that JP and Taylor were probably supposed to be. You think there's the sure thing?
I think they were. I think they were supposed to be the sure thing, and I think it started to crumble.
Yeah.
Because they clicked so quickly, and they were the first to get engaged, right? And that's usually the first ones who are so sure, first engaged. They're usually the sure one, like Alexa and Brennan, Cam and Lauren. Like, that's usually the ones. And yeah, then when they met, it was like, oh, and then Mexico just, they didn't even make it out of Mexico.
I think Renee and Carter was probably supposed to be their wild card couple. Because like, I really am curious what their pod dates were like, because they give opposites. Like, Renee is she's I think a veterinarian, but maybe I'm projecting, but she just gives she talked about, I'm either gonna marry like the pool guy or like the mailman if I don't get out the house.
Oh, wow.
And like, saying something like the pool guy, I was like, okay, is it giving a little bougie, but I'm at home?
Yeah.
And Carter was just like, I love fishing, and any girl who's gonna be with me has to be okay that I'm gonna fish with my friends every week. And I'm like, how do these two mix? I don't get it.
Yeah, they both seem silly though, and like, because Renee was often doing things in the women's lounge, making them laugh, and Carter seems like, the few clips that we have of him, he seems like also he makes the guys laugh a lot.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it's intentional, if he's just being himself and everybody finds it funny.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Okay, so my last question to get to is, what is our BB moment of these 2 episodes, if we even have one? A beautiful Black moment. We had more Black people with Milton.
We did.
Yeah.
I think a beautiful black woman. I mean, as much as I was perturbed with Milton's family, like the way his mom just flat out asked Lydia for her full name, and she was like,
Mm-hmm.
"What's your last name again?"
Mm-hmm.
Asking for this woman's full name,
Mm-hmm.
and also like the way, just like the way she was just very clear with Lydia about who she was and like what
Yeah.
she was expecting out of this whole situation. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, I love a black mama that does not hold back.
Yeah. For me, the mom saying, well, that was like a great scripted answer, or like you're very scripted. I was like, gagged her. Gagged her. Wow. An interrogator for sure. She doesn't
Right.
need the FBI. Like she's on her own doing it.
Period.
Do we I'm probably gonna give up on doing the chaotic bisexual moment this season because it's given very hetero. I forgot. We have to double back because Izzy's mom finally comes into the picture. So Izzy's mom, he sees her for the first time. She comes over to their place. Tux, first of all, Stacy's dog, Tux, is so cute. Very hyper. He's like, I know you're going to be good, but you need to be good.
Oh my gosh.
He
Giving
probably,
very, like, Tux was giving very, like, I'm clearly 50 or 60 pounds, but in my mind, I'm like 10 pounds. So I want to be
absolutely.
in your lap.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And like, I think Izzy's also like, I'm not gonna say anything about Stacy's dog, so I'm gonna be like, you are a good boy, but be a good boy.
Right. Do not embarrass me in front of my mom, please.
Yes. So his mom comes in and she has some concerns. She's just like, yeah, this is very shocking or surprising. Like, who is this woman? And you know what? Izzy is just kind of like a little bit of Lydia in that he has the answers ready. He's like, she's sweet and tender and just going in on these descriptors. But I'm like, but this is still not really a lot of like concrete information that your mom probably knows. Like, what's her full name? What's her job and all of that, which I know he probably told her. But it was kind of giving, yeah, how Lydia talks.
And I'm like, are these descriptors even truly accurate? Because I'm like, when I think of Stacy, I don't think of her as tender and sweet. And I know that they have plenty of hours and moments together that we will never see as viewers.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I'm like, Stacy was not giving that.
Yeah.
Besides baby voice.
Yeah. But she's a little baby. She's very tender and very sweet. And she just really likes things.
Right.
But yeah, it's very interesting because she even says like I don't do well with like the mushy stuff, even though she turns into a puddle later. So what is the truth? And yeah, but his mom is shocked and she says, you know, I'm gonna support you. So Stacy comes in, she got the flowers ready, she's ready to do this. And you know, she says she's not gonna BS the mom when she starts asking things. She's like, you know, I could say all of these things that I'm the perfect woman, but like this is like the real how I'm gonna give it to you straight. And Lydia would never.
Could never, actually.
Yeah.
She is so dead set on impressing and becoming someone's wife that she's like, I
Mm-hmm.
will do and say anything that will
Mm-hmm.
make me seem like the ultimate wife figure.
Yeah. I liked Izzy's mom and how she approached everything because my thing is like it's always so tricky meeting the parents, but I think the right balance is like, yeah, them being skeptical, voicing some of their concerns, but also not being like, oh, my poor little baby. She says, I'm also concerned about you. Like, I don't
Right.
know I don't know what they're doing to both of y'all over there. And as you know, Love is Blind is getting some lawsuits. There's just a
Right.
new one. So she's just like, I don't want either of y'all to get hurt in this.
Right.
And I really appreciated that. I was like, she's such a lovely woman.
She is. And just seeing her, like we mentioned with the guys at like the tux fittings, it's like she's just such a sweet mom. And just like, yeah, I think it's like, yes, it's important to be critical and making sure you're asking this person questions to get to know them, but ultimately also being just like open to the whole situation. Because I feel like, you know, that is like one of the things with Milton's family at a certain point. I mean, his dad is in the background, like being like, no, you know, for it. But I think that is also important is like, you should like, as a family member, once you've like kind of vetted this person a little, like support your loved one in doing this experience so they can ultimately come to the decision that feels right for them versus holding whatever guilt, resentment, or whatever your opinion of this whole situation is.
Totally. Agree. Is there anything else you want to say about this scene?
No. No. Tux is very cute.
Very cute. A star. I hope Tux is somehow part of the ceremony.
Me
That'd be
too.
cute.
Ring bearer, so cute. I'm ready to get to the altar.
We're getting to the altar.
And then I'm just like, we're gonna have a whole episode dedicated to 2 weddings.
But you know what? The thing is, I don't get mad at the weddings being long because I'm like, that means we get to see past the altar and get maybe a little juice. I don't know. Or it could be a lot of like, we're gonna really spend time in the lead up and
fluff, like us seeing them get their marriage license. Like that's what I fear, you know?
Yeah.
The fluff. Now I'm like really curious, like, is there gonna be a reunion?
There's gonna be a reunion.
Right.
It's just a question of whether it's live or not.
Right.
And who's gonna be
Who's
there?
gonna be there? Because I'm like, Uche sounding like he ain't gonna be there. So I'm like, no, I need you there, sir. I need you to answer for some things.
Yeah. Well, did he say anything?
Well, he did a Q&A on his Instagram.
Yeah.
And he I don't know if you heard that. Like he did it Instagram. Yeah, and he was just like very like, oh, I look forward to speaking more on my own platforms and on podcasts and talk shows. When he was flat out asked about will he be on the reunion, and he just didn't answer the question.
Yeah, interesting. I think Aaliyah is going to be there because Aaliyah was seen in California recently, and so was Izzy. So I'm like, okay, Aaliyah's going to be, and Aaliyah needs to be there. Anything.
She does, because she got lost in all of this, like Uche versus Lydia.
Yes.
I'm like, no, we need reparations for my good sis Aaliyah, who was just like very vulnerable with these 2 people who knew something she didn't know.
The energy that Vanessa Lachey had talking to Jackie is the energy she needs to bring in support of Aaliyah this season.
She better.
I will be very confused if she does.
And I'm like, the energy that she had with Paul, she better have that for Uche if he's in the room.
Yeah, she will finally be on the right side of history for a minute if she gives that energy to Uche. Truly. Because last season, yeah, she was shooting at all kinds of men that we were like, but that one over there.
Not you coming hard at Marshall. I'm like, granted, what he said was not okay, but also you were going all softball with fucking Jackie, and they're getting special treatment and on Zoom.
Yeah. So we'll see. Is there anything you want to plug, Quita?
No, not right now. But I'm excited to come back for next week.
Yes. All right. Well, I will put the link to your YouTube and socials below. For me, I'm your host, Nicole Weaver. I am going to be talking to Nicole Hayes tomorrow about Big Brother 25. I'm still doing exit interviews. And other than that, I'm just going to be looking forward. And I am writing on Collider. Again, my articles on Love is Blind will be below. And that's all for now. Bye.
Bye, y'all.